Welcome to the Bulgarian Troglodyte. My name is SJS, and today I'm gonna do another decade video. This time it's the top 25 films of the 1940s. And I think 40s was a great decade for cinema. Many of the great films come from that decade, and many of my personal favorites as well. And my list here is pretty cookie cutter stuff, very established canonical classics that most people who are cinephiles have seen. So I'm not gonna talk about these in much detail. And as always, I also need to rewatch like a huge chunk of these films. That's always the problem. How to balance watching new stuff and going back to the old favorites. Yeah. We're gonna start with one of the great films. It's The Red Shoes by the Archers. One of my top 50, top 40, top 30 favorite films of all time as well. I think we art lovers can really connect with the themes of the film that are all about, again, whether you should choose love or your passion, your art. And I think even people who aren't artists, we can still really connect to that topic. And this film has such complex, very interesting characters. It's very like fascinating to follow their inner conflicts and also the conflicts between the characters. And this is a very entertaining film, even though it's about those big themes. And it has that famous, extremely gorgeous Technicolor cinematography to it, and I think this is probably the best looking film of the 1940s and one of the best looking films of all time. And to me, this is clearly best film that the Archers made. I think this has more depth than most of their films that I have seen, and I think also it's just the most beautiful and most entertaining film that they made also. And I love Walbrook and Moira Shearer in this one, as well as the other characters. But yeah, an all-time great film. Everybody should watch. And I like ballet in general, even though I don't know much about it yet, but I want to dive into it more in the future. Then the very close second, it's Letter from an Unknown Woman by Max Ophuls, film that I have a very emotional connection with. Like the last 15 minutes is just absolutely heartbreaking. And this is another film that has like fairly complex characters. I think especially the again female lead is a very complex character, very interesting character, very sad character as well. It also has very beautiful cinematography. It's very entertaining and charming throughout much of it, even though it has that sad, very melancholic flavor to it as well. And yeah, this is such a beautiful film, and yeah, one of the greats, and my favorite from the director as well. Then we have Bicycle Thieves that I have seen a few times, and it somehow keeps getting better and better every time I watch it, even though my taste has become more and more demanding as I have grown older. But this film just always holds up as something very heartbreaking, but also very beautiful. And it's also like great film for architecture buffs like myself. It's great to see all the buildings in Rome and stuff. And yeah, it's also really beautifully shot. And great performances by the dad and the kid, even though again they aren't like famous actors because it's a neo-realist film and they aren't really known for the most famous actors for the most part, although there are of course exceptions. But yeah, beautiful film with a great ending. Like I remember when I showed this film to my friend, and when it ended, he was just like, "How can it end like this?" Like that's the reaction you get when you watch this film. But yeah, a masterpiece, never gets old. Then another masterpiece, it's Late Spring from Yasujiro Ozu, which I have seen a couple of times, even once in the cinema. But it's been like 5 years since my last watch, so I need to go back to it. It's definitely in the conversation for being Osu's best film, but he made so many masterpieces, so it's hard to say. All-time great performances by Chizuru and Setsuko Hara, who are both Osu regulars. One of the great endings as well. His beautiful visual aesthetic in full display here. And as always, it tells you so much about changing society and family relationships and other relationships and aging and things like that. Lots of interesting human conflicts. Yeah, such a beautiful masterpiece. Then we have film that's always been a top three Hitchcock for me. It's Row. So this is known for its kind of exploration of the Nietzschean Übermensch thing, and it does it in a very interesting way. And obviously, it has that gay subtext as well, which is very interesting as it is a film from the 1940s. So it's always interesting to see something like that. But it's also such a fun movie, very entertaining, very thrilling movie. And of course, it's also known for the kind of visual gimmick that it kind of looks like it's all in one take and in this one place. But obviously, there are some cuts there that you can notice if you pay attention to it, but they aren't that noticeable in the end, if I remember correctly. It's been quite many years since I last watched it, but yeah, love all the acting is in this way in this film as well. Then this one I have talked about on my channel, but it might be my favorite first time watch of the year so far. It's on 20 and 1080p on YouTube if you want to watch it. But it's I've Always Loved You by Frank Borzage. It's kind of like a classical music version of the Red Shoes, very similar type of film. Then we have this maestro, very controlling maestro, this kind of middle-aged guy, and then we have this young woman, very talented pianist, and then they go into the journey together, and we see their kind of conflict, but also their kind of love between them, because there's this kind of love triangle here in this film as well. But yeah, it says lots about controlling men, about toxic masculinity, but also a lot about talent and passion and love and things like that. It has very beautiful cinematography, lots of great and classical music scenes as well, and yeah, it's quite melodramatic and over the top in some ways, but in such a great way. And I wish that this was more famous, as I think it's definitely one of the great films of the 1940s, but not many people have seen it. So then we have the one and only, the Great Dictator, my favorite Chaplin, and I'm a big fan of Chaplin in general. This is really funny, like when we see the two dictators, for example, and they're gonna the humorous scenes between them and kind of because they both want to be the boss and the greater dictator in the way. So those scenes are really fun. And obviously there's the famous speech, which is great. But yeah, an amazing film and one that is kind of always relevant. Yeah, great stuff. And this one I really need to rewatch. It's David Lean's Brief Encounter, and I way prefer this to Lawrence of Arabia or Bridge on the River Kwai and those bigger films. This is way more kind of my type of more intimate, low key, very humane film. I don't really like those kind of bloated films where people walk in the desert for 4 hours straight. Yeah, so this is way more my thing. And yeah, great lead performances. It's a very emotional film, very beautiful film. Yeah, need to rewatch it, like I said. Then we have The Grapes of Wrath. It's a adaptation of the John Steinbeck novel, and yeah, very hard hitting film about a very difficult period in American history. Henry Fonda, I've always loved him a lot, and he's really great in this one. And I think he does a bit of a different performance that he usually does, and his character is shows like lots of different sides to him. So like his character is really great in this, and it has those great John Ford shots in it. It has like really great cinematography. And even though it's fairly dark in many ways, it's still like a very entertaining film as well. Yeah, another one I need to rewatch. I think it's been like 6 years since I watched it. So then we have Frank Capra's "It's a Wonderful Life." Yeah, don't need to really talk about that one. Then we have another Archer's film. This one I also need to rewatch. It's a Matter of Life and Death. This is actually probably my second favorite by them, but of course they made several five-star films. And I just had to leave out the Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. It was just kind of outside this list. Maybe like number 26 or 27. So too bad that I couldn't include it, but I wanted to give it a shout out here too. But yeah, this is just one of those heartwarming films. I don't think it's like a very deep film, and this type of story has also been done quite a many times, but it's also just so beautiful, so entertaining, so humane. Yeah, just great cinematography in this one, like it's like in all of their films, especially in all of their like big classic films. Then Out of the Past, great film noir, another one I need to rewatch. Yeah, starring the great Robert Mitchum, Kirk Douglas, and others. Yeah, one of the great noirs. You probably have seen it if you are into the genre. Then this one I also need to rewatch. It's Red River by Howard Hawks. Currently my favorite by Hawks, although I have to say that last year I watched or rewatched some Hawks films and they kind of went down in my estimation in a after a rewatch. So we'll see if that happens to this one too. But again, this is a western. It's kind of like a fairly big film in a way, but it also has that kind of more intimate human side. And it's kind of a good um, exploration of the also the headspace of these characters and stuff. So even though it has a big plot and stuff, and it's a western, it feels like a more low-key film at the same time. So yeah, this is such a great one as well. Then we have the one and only The Shop Around the Corner by Ernst Lubitsch. Really beautiful film. Yeah, this is I think my favorite Lubitsch film. Probably as I love these types of plots where we have a love story, but there's like a kind of an angle to it that it's done in a different way. And of course, it's fun that obviously these characters hate each other, but then they have like the versions of themselves that they don't know. Again, the ones that the pen pal versions of themselves that they don't know each other that way, but they love each other through the pen pal stuff. But then they hate each other when they actually meet in real life before that. But obviously, it has a happy ending, like all of these 40s American films have. Basically. Then we have the Third Man, another one that I need to rewatch. I know Ronin really loved this one. But yeah, great Wells performance, even though his role is quite small in the end, but it's like a very memorable role. And of course, this is known for the kind of weird musical score, but I don't really mind it. And this is like very atmospheric film with great cinematography and stuff. So looking forward to watching it again. And then Treasure of Sierra Madre. Yeah, exploring some of the similar themes as something like There Will Be Blood, but I think this is like a way better film. And it's in the conversation for being Bogey's best performance. But it's a great film about greed and how that changes people. But it's a very entertaining adventure film at the same time, so it kind of works as both more of a serious film, but also as kind of like great Sunday afternoon film that you watch when you eat pizza and stuff. Yeah, need to rewatch this one as well. I remember really loving it. So then White Heat, another classic Hollywood film starring the great James Cagney, and it has like a phenomenal ending that's kind of like really funny in a way. And I guess James Cagney's character, there's some parallels to like someone like Tony Soprano, as he has the kind of mother complex, but he's also this psychopath and a criminal. But this is like a very entertaining, well written film with like funny characters and funny performances. So would highly recommend this one if you like classic Hollywood. Then this one I think is maybe slightly underappreciated. It's the Heiress by the great William Wyler. And William Wyler is a director I need to do a more of a deep dive on, but found his films to be like really interesting. Again, the ones that I've seen, and this is probably my favorite so far. I think Olivia de Havilland and Montgomery Clift are really good in it. And this one is also like fairly feminist for the time. Um, yeah, because we see this kind of toxic male behavior in it and how women can be trapped due to that. It's also a lot about like social class, but not just like monetarily, but also in terms of like women and men. So it's very interesting and really deep film, beautifully shot as well. Like this shot, for example, is really great, great movie. Then Black Narcissus, again another absolutely gorgeous film, and the highlight is like the again for this film the ending too. I think the last 20 minutes when it gets a bit crazier. I love that moment in the film. Incredible shots. I mean, shot after shot after shot. Yeah, yeah. It's mostly about the visuals to me. I'm not sure how deep of a film it is in the end, but it's just so beautiful that you love it for that. And this next one is kind of similar in that way. That's just so beautiful and bright. It's Vincent Minnelli's Meet Me in St. Louis. This was one film that I didn't have like much expectations for. I think I watched it back in the day for the 2012 Sight and Sound list. But this just blew me away because it was just so charming and heartwarming and kind of lovable film. But I haven't rewatched it since, so need to watch it again. But such a beautiful film. Then we have a Yasujiro Ozu film. It's There Was a Father. It's a very emotional film about this father and son relationship, and they often get separated in this film. The father has to go to another city to work, and then okay, the kid lives in his school and studies there, and then as an adult, the kid also wants to like be closer to his father, but then his father kind of fights against that. So they both have like very different ideas of what the father and son relationship should be like, and you can just kind of just see the pain and emotion in the faces of the characters often. So it's just such a emotional film, and also very relatable film for me. And I think for many people who have these kind of bit out of the ordinary relationships with their parents. But yeah, I think this is maybe slightly underrated. I think it's a really great movie. Then we have the War trilogy um, by Rossellini. I mean, I put them here in the order they came out in, but I think Paisan might be my slight favorite if I had to choose one. But so we have Rome, Open City, the most famous one out of the three, probably one of the great neo-realist films. I mean, all of them are. Then we have Paisan, which is separated into vignettes, and I really liked all the vignettes. It starts with a really great vignette, and I think I remember I watched Rome Open City first. Then I had like quite a bit of a break before I watched the other two, but then I watched the other two back to back. Yeah. So yeah, I mean I showed this already. I think yeah. But Germany Year Zero, which has some really brutal moments to it, but yeah, such kind of harshly beautiful films, very dark films, but yeah, just great examples of the neo-realist period. Yeah, I love Rossellini a lot. I need to rewatch the trilogy very soon. Then we have Woman of the Night, a Kenji Mizoguchi film I watched last year. Again, it tackles many of the similar themes as his films usually do. So it shows these women who have pretty brutal lives, and it has kind of even this also has a bit of that neo-realist type of thing going for it, and it shows the post-war society and how it's like really brutal for the average person. And of course, this came out in 1948, so it's just after it, so there hasn't been any time for development yet, really. So it's starring the great Kinuyo Tanaka. Yeah. But this is one of Misaguchi's best, I think, but not many people talk about it. It has such great cinematography as always as well. But that was my list. Sorry that I couldn't talk about these films better because again, like I said, I need to rewatch most of these films. But anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know your favorites from the 40s. Sayonara and arigato gozaimashita.